Okay, so now we're going to look at assembling the components. When you receive a copy of FlickFleet, each individual ship is in its own little bag with all the wooden discs and cubes that are needed to play with that piece. So how do we get to that stage? Well, we have an array of discs and cubes which you've seen under the table. When we started making FlickFleet, I created a reference card for each ship type that told me exactly which ships and cubes were needed for each one. And the way it works now is I basically bag the components for 10 of that ship at a time. So I keep the reference card in front of me so I don't mess up. I put out little containers with the discs and cubes in the right colours that I need. I have some, actually IKEA coasters, and I have 10 of those. And basically what I do is I just grab a handful of the pieces and I start putting the right number into each of the coasters. So at this point I have 10 coasters, each with all the bits for one ship. So what I then do is I take one little baggie, and this is the slow bit. I pick up the cubes and I check them, check there's no obvious defects and that they are cuboid. Then I drop them into the bag. I visibly inspect the pieces that I can see. I flip them all over to check the reverse side is okay as well. They're all fine. I then make a little stack of them in my fingers and I rotate them to check that the edges are okay. This is because I've learned one of the issues you can get is quite severe nibbling around the edges and some tool marks. And for some reason a lot of the red discs were slightly mistooled, so they sometimes have kind of a rough edge, which is quite unpleasant, so those also get rejected. When I'm happy that they're okay, I drop them into the bag. Obviously as I was doing that I was checking that there were 3 cubes and 5 discs in the right colour. I then seal the bag and I throw it into my box labelled Destroyer Bits over there. This may seem like overkill, but to be honest I like knowing that every component you receive is as good as it can be. What I don't want is people contacting us saying, oh, the bits weren't very good, because we've put a lot of care and effort into it, and that's what I'm trying to avoid, because that would get in the way of people enjoying playing our game. I did do some rough calculations earlier today, and in the last 2 weeks I have bagged 10,643 wooden discs, 9,389 wooden cubes, and they have gone into 2,289 Ziploc plastic bags. And that's roughly what I needed to make about 200 copies of the game and about 100 copies of the expansion ready for fulfilling the Kickstarter that's currently live. So that has taken a while. And somewhere, if I can show you, I have a bag in which I keep all the cubes and discs that were slightly imperfect so that they don't affect your enjoyment of the game. So the next stage is kind of bringing that all together. So the way we do that is I made on some long strips of paper kind of a reference guide so that I know what needs to be where. And I tend to do this in batches of 5. So on the Imperium side of this sheet of paper, and there is an uprising side as well, it tells me exactly which ships I need for that game. So I can see that there are space for the pairs of dice, and I'm going to have basically rows, and I'm going to go for 5 rows in that column. On the other side, I need 5 dreadnoughts. Now a dreadnought carries 2 fighter wings with it, which are the circles. Now one thing I do is as I'm building them, I want to check that, because it's important when you're playing the game, if a fighter wing is damaged, the outer ring comes off. So it's important to me that the rings don't stick together. So when I'm assembling them at this stage, I put my finger on the middle and check that bit freely rotates, and then I do the same with the middle ring against the outer ring to check it rotates. And I'll do that for each fighter wing as I'm doing it. If any stick a little bit, I see if there's something caught on them, if they need a little bit of sanding, or sometimes they just don't fit. And then I get those 2 fighter wings and stand them on the dreadnought. Similarly with the carriers, the Imperium have 1 carrier. They get 2 fighter wings. So the same again, I'm going to do the spinning test. And obviously I'm checking for anything I've missed with the cleaning or sanding as I'm doing it. And they also get 3 bomber wings, well, 1 set of 3 bomber wings for each one. And then there's 4 destroyers. And I keep doing that till basically the rows and the columns are full. Okay, so the next task is putting the acrylic ships into the bags with their corresponding wooden bits. So to do that, I've got my grid of ships laid out. What I do is I get the ready sorted bags of wooden bits and I put a sealed bag on top of the corresponding ship. So that is the bags for 5 dreadnoughts. Then I'll do the same again for the 5 carriers. And the bigger job is the destroyers, because the Imperium have lots of destroyers. This step is usually quite rapid because I know, because I was so careful earlier on, that there's the right number of discs and cubes in every bag and that they're all okay. So once I've done that, I am going to start putting them together. So I tend to turn these sideways to show that they're done. That's kind of my way of doing it. Magic the Gathering fans may recognise that. So I basically just put the piece into the bag, seal it and turn it sideways, and then progress up that column. If I want to mix it up, sometimes I do the row instead. I do the carriers and the dreadnoughts slightly differently. For the carriers, I open up the bag and hold it. I get the 2 fighter wings, I slide them to the edge so I can pinch them, put them in first, then put the carrier itself to one side of the bag, get 1 bomber wing and put it on top of the fighters. The other 2 bombers I put at the top edge so they fit neatly against the top of the carrier. Dreadnoughts are fun. I tend to get the bag, make sure all the discs and cubes are at one bottom corner, then with the wings still on it, pick up the dreadnought and the wings and slide them in to the bag, the challenge being to keep the wings balanced. And then all the cubes and discs fall into one corner, the wings fall into the other, and it just looks nice and neat. So now we've got all the Imperium bits for 5 copies of FlickFleet laid out ready to box. So let's just have a think about the boxes for a minute. So these are the boxes we have now. These have been professionally manufactured for us by a box making company. I think they arrived from Poland, I believe. In the first edition of FlickFleet, Jack handmade all the boxes, which was amazing, but a huge amount of work. Even when I did as much as I could to support him with that, cutting out the grey board and the vinyl stickers, still a huge amount of work. So we decided off the back of the second Kickstarter that we were going to shift to having these professionally made because it was quicker, and if there were any errors it was on them rather than us. When the boxes arrived, my daughter and I, she was lovely about this, we went through and put all the rule books and shipped dashboards into each individual box. The rules and the dashboards are actually printed at a Printworks, I believe in Newcastle, near Jack. And earlier this year, before COVID and everything kicked off, we met up in a car park in the services at Scotch Corner and hurriedly exchanged boxes of dashboards and rule books from the boot of one car to another. So when I get to this stage, I know, but I always just check as well, that there should be 1 dashboard for each capital ship in each box. What I do is I take out the rule book, having taken the lid off obviously, and I just go left to right, putting all of one row into the box. I then know that that is all of the Imperium components for that game. So I can then put the rule book back, put the lid on, put it to one side, and when this is all done, repeat this procedure with the red uprising ships. And that's how we get a complete copy of FlickFleet. In true Blue Peter fashion, here are some I made earlier. So actually, I've got all the uprising pieces, which I can also put in this box. Now interestingly, when I'm boxing the deluxe versions with the etched ships, I try to put the etching face down. Not to cause people a panic that they've got the wrong copy, but that when they start lifting them out and have a look, they have that moment of, oh wow, that's really pretty. So then rolls in, lid on, and that now is a completely ready to ship standard copy of FlickFleet. If I were to be making a deluxe version, the big difference is obviously all the ships are etched and there's an extra set of dice, but there is a difference with the box. I have an expansion box that's a deluxe copy of the game that I prepared earlier, and as you can see it has this shiny gold sticker on. So they have to be applied by hand to the deluxe boxes as they go. So the stickers come in A4 sheets, then we want to position them roughly, in this case about 3mm in from the blue and white edge there and the edge of the box there, and on the game they actually go similar distances in the bottom left corner. So I actually made a little cardboard jig that I can put against the bottom corner of the box, and then I know the sticker must go into that corner there. The other big difference with the deluxe copies is that inside the lid each copy is numbered, is signed by Jack and I with a message, and people could ask to personalise it as well. So we could have like 2 Max, for example, written in there. We've shifted to stickers because Jack and I physically can't meet up at the moment due to the COVID restrictions, and this was the only way we could find of actually progressing manufacturing without sacrificing that kind of nice touch. So I do hope our deluxe backers do appreciate that we've gone to all that effort. So once we've made our awesome game in great detail and with much love and care, the last stage is that we need to get it to you, our backers. So to do that, we buy a load of shipping cartons in a variety of sizes. So this is the one that holds 1 copy of FlickFleet. They all need making, which is just fold and pop in, which is quite satisfying actually. So then you're left with a shipping carton. So I take the cut sheet of bubble wrap, I make sure the flat edge is facing outwards and the bubbles are facing upwards. Place it roughly like that. Put the FlickFleet box so that when you open the box it's towards you. Fold over like so. Squidge in the bit at the side and seal the box. Now I'm not actually going to seal this one, but if I were doing, my favourite bit of this is I get to use a tape gun, which is awesome. And I tape across the long edge and those 2 short edges. I pre-print everyone's addresses on sheets, A4 sheets of sticker paper that I can then cut out and stick. And if anyone's noticed, we actually use the font that we've used throughout the game called, I think it's Zolonium. And then I have made similar sheets. You can see this one's been cut down with the Eurydice Games return postcode and house number on. So I'll cut one of those out, stick in the top left corner, cut out address label to go in the middle. Then if it's to one of our international backers, we add an airmail sticker and a completed customs label. And then I have to weigh the game to complete that. Then when I've got a few of them, I head off to the post office and spend a small fortune on shipping our game to you lovely backers. I hope you appreciate how much love and care and attention and sheer hours of work have gone into this, which is why we're particularly proud that of our 2 Kickstarters we've completed so far, we've managed to fulfil them both several months early because of just how much hard work we put into it. So I really hope that's given you some insight into the efforts we go to make sure FlickFleet is as good as it can be, and hopefully that you get as much enjoyment from it as we do making it. Thank you so much for watching and listening.